So this is a review for Tale of Two Mice, released in 1945. It's the 457th in the series, and it's directed by Frank Tashlin. You can find this beautiful restoration on the Looney Tunes Collector's Choice Volume 1 Blu-ray set. That version is the Blue Ribbon reissue version. The original titles have shown up, but it's from an inferior source, so they opted not to use it. I've just Frankensteined it on my own personal copy, just cause. Maybe because I've got no life, I don't know. But they do exist at the very least, and you can easily find that on YouTube. The short is under copyright. I can't show you the full thing here on YouTube. Warner Brothers just blocked the video, but they may choose to put it on their own channel if they choose to do so. In case you haven't seen this one, in this short we have mice version of Abbott and Costello as opposed to previous short where there were cats, but now they're actually mice. Why? I don't know, but it doesn't matter. That's how good this short actually is. The Costello mouse being chased after a cat after trying to get some cheese. Babbitt is not happy, as you can imagine. If you've seen the Abbott and Costello movies, you pretty much know how the two characters interact with each other, so Babbitt's not happy, and for the rest of the short, the two of them attempt to steal the cheese. But I will break it down further for you as we'll go through the short from start to finish. So just a few bits of trivia for this one. The title itself, much like the Bob Clampett short, where we had Abbott and Costello cats, so that one was A Tale of Two Kitties, this one is Tale of Two Mice, and both of them take their name off of the Charles Dickens novel, A Tale of Two Cities. The short's got nothing to do with that book, by the way. Why they chose this title? Well, I guess it sounded funny, I don't know, but whatever. And this is not the last time you'll see the actual Abbott and Costello mice. Bob McKimson would direct the second and final short featuring these characters in The Mouse and Mariah's Cat, which was released in 1946. Now, by this point, Frank Tashlin had actually left the studio, hence why he does not get a directing credit here. Some have said that McKimson may have finished this cartoon off. It's quite possible. It's similar to what happened when Tex Avery left the studio and Bob Clampett finished a few of his shorts. Looks like it's happened here as well, but of course neither director is credited. And I was looking into this further, and there is a Frank Tashlin short called The Great Cheese Mystery that was released by Screen Gems that has a very similar idea where it's got two mice trying to steal food from a sleeping cat. Of course here the mice are parodied as Abbott and Costello, but this short can easily be found online anyway. And it's definitely something worth checking out. I think the Frank Tashlin period of Screen Gems should get a closer look at because there's some decent stuff in there. None of it, I guess, is as impactful as what was done over at Warner Brothers, but still, there's a lot of decent stuff while he was there. And it looks like the name of this short varies from point to point because the actual title is Tale of Two Mice, hence the original titles, but then if you look at the lobby cards, it says A Tale of Two Mice, which would make more sense given what the actual pun is supposed to be for that Charles Dickens novel, but that's okay. And looking at the opening titles, it looks like they've gone for a whole storybook feel. I like that added touch under the T in tale. Was it really needed? Perhaps not, but it's a nice little touch. But we get into the short itself, and I gotta say, unlike a lot of the recent Tashlin shorts where things start off pretty slow, and then the pace rapidly picks up towards the end, this short starts off quick, and I mean quick. Literally, the first shot is the Costello mouse just running up and there's cat chasing after him, even sleeping on a rug in the very beginning. So it's kind of unusual in that way. And the pace grows faster and faster as the Costello mouse is yelling out, "Hey, Babbitt!" So reminiscent of Abbott and Costello. And once again, I'm going to mention this a few times. If you haven't seen Abbott and Costello, do yourself a favor and watch them, okay? Definitely do so. Well, after you finish this review, of course. So we get a little mini door gag where they go through a few doors. And look at the animation of the cat going down the stairs. So the Costello mouse goes down as normal, but then the cat's going down so fast that the actual banister's warped over. And then once the cat ends up going to the end of the banister, the gravity ends up causing the neck to extend. It's really bizarre. That's a great one to slow-mo, by the way. But a lot of this chase has an interesting flow to it. There'd be a burst of speed, then a slight pause. Burst of speed, slight pause. And the pause would be usually for the cat looking around going, where did the mouse go? Oh, it's this way. Burst of speed, then stop again, and so on. And it's a great way to do it.
Hey, Babbitt!
And just showing Tashlin's great use of timing. So once they end up in the kitchen area, you see the chase, it goes on and on and on, but then out of the blue, bang. You know that the Costello mouse is going to end up going in the mouse hole. It's pretty easy to figure out. But the unpredictability of it is how the cat ends up being stopped, and that's a wonderful thing to freeze frame there, where the cat's head ends up turning flat. It's very bizarre. I wonder who animated that bit. So the Costello mouse ends up entering the mouse hole, and he's yelling out, "Babbitt, Babbitt!" And of course Babbitt's there, but you got this wonderful bit of animation where he's just being so hysterical and even makes Babbitt do push-ups in the midst of all of that. But anyway, it's a great bit of timing and a great bit of animation. So Babbitt ends up slapping Costello just to, get him out of it. Now, in terms of vocals, you have the Costello cat voiced by Mel Blanc, and the Babbitt mouse is voiced by Ted Pierce, who was mainly a writer at the studio, among other studios. He went around. He was perhaps more well known for writing shorts for Warner Brothers, and roughly around this time, he was writing a lot of shorts for Chuck Jones. But he did a lot of acting. He would be a silhouette in One Tex Avery short, and he would do a lot of impersonations, and yeah, he would be more or less the go-to guy when doing the voice for either the Babbitt cat or the Babbitt mouse in this case. So Babbitt asks, "Where's the cheese?" So it's a nice, simple setup. And the Costello mouse is describing things like crazy, so we see a hint of him turning into a cat, babbling on about what on earth is going on, trying to describe things but without words. And such a great scene here, not just for the animation, which is incredible, like I said, it really is, especially if you slow-mo, just how crazy it gets. It starts off him being relatively normal, well, at least for Costello anyway, but then he morphs into this cat and he just keeps going on and on and on and on. But even the vocal effects by Mel Blanc in trying to describe what's going on, so you got the best of both worlds here. But
It's there! It's there! Whoa! 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 It's there! Meow! 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 Meow!
wow, it's so well paced, and the timing of it is really good. I mean, like I said, when Costello's imitating the cat, with other directors, they might either go on too long or be too short, not giving it the right impact it needs, but the fact that it goes on for what seems like forever, before Babbitt says, "Oh, so you're afraid of the cat," it's done really well here. And we see a bit of fake confidence from the Costello mouse where he's like, who's afraid of the cat? I'm not afraid of the cat. You all know he's going to quickly then change his tune and says, "Yep, I'm afraid of the cat."
Scared of the cat! Scared of the cat! Scared! So I'm scared of the cat.
And we get a little cinematic somewhat from Tashlin. In a few shorts, Tashlin can go really cinematic in terms of the angles that he would pick to show off his shorts, and then sometimes he'd really pick up the pace with fast cutting. But he only does so when necessary. Here, he does a wonderful top-down shot when Babbitt's saying, "I'm ashamed of you, being afraid of the cat." It's a great choice here, and I don't think any other director would have picked that. Babbitt then says, some of the greatest historical figures have been rats, and Costello says, "Yep, and I know one of them."
Ashamed of you. Where's your courage? Some of the greatest names in history have been rats.
Yeah, and I know one of them.
Okay, some of you might say, hey, the whole gag is that he's saying, "I know a rat," and he's referring to Babbitt, hence the punchline, hence the slap, right? And yet they're supposed to be mice, but are they rats or mice? I don't know. The joke doesn't come across too clear in this part. It's probably one of the very, very few flaws in this one. So now we get into the meat of the story, where Babbitt is going to assist, in his own way of course, the Costello mouse to get the cheese, okay? Because why should he do the job himself? Let the Costello mouse do it. And we start off with this very crudely drawn picture here, and I like how the chair doesn't even have a fourth leg on it, and it gets the point across. I mean, the mouse is not an artist and not meant to be, but, it has its charm, I guess. But look at the bit where they're looking onto the map where you have the Costello mouse saying, "Nope, I'm not going to do it." He keeps on interrupting. But look at the facial expressions of Babbitt.
The cheese is in the refrigerator.
He's just dumbfounded, and he does this wonderful pause where he does this really creepy looking grin. This short is full of these little touches where it's easy to miss the first time you see it. And the more times you see this, the more times you can really appreciate how much work got into it. Because, little side note here, on the surface, this just looks like, oh yeah, your pop culture thing. They're just doing Abbott and Costello's mice, big whoop. But there's actually a little bit more to this one, and that's what I like. But I like after that, you get that nice little pause, and then he just starts slapping the Costello mouse around. It's absolutely hilarious.
In the refrigerator, right here. And the cat's asleep.
The cat's asleep.
But it actually does set up what happens at the end. All of this violence, it's all going to build up, and it's all going to pay off. But of course, when Babbitt mentions that the cat's asleep, there's that fake courage again with the Costello mouse going, yep, where's the cat? Let me at him, let me at him. And once again, the animation of the courage shown off here is incredible. He even lifts up his belly at one point. Ooh, it's the little details in this one that really, really show off just how great even these quote-unquote lesser Tashlin shorts really are. But as soon as he exits the mouse hole and the door is closed, we definitely get a change in tune. Tashlin was definitely great in knowing when to animate and when not to animate, as we see right here, where he's stuck on this one cell for the longest time when the realization's kicking in that, oh, he still has to deal with the cat. Then he goes back and starts charging at the door. Babbitt says, shush, you'll wake up the cat. And I just like that gag there, where the Costello mouse then just stops and just calmly knocks on the door, but then just starts beating it down anyways. So Costello's going crazy, he's going to charge through the door, but Babbitt realizes he could just use the rubber bands that just happen to be lying around there in order to get him to go over there and get that cheese. All of this leads up to the fact that the Costello mouse ends up waking up the cat anyway, because he ends up being flung all the way over to the cat's nose. And I love the line here. My mother said there'll always be days like this.
My mother told me there'd be days like this.
Not the first nor the last time that line would be said in a short. But can we take a look at this cat for a moment? He actually kind of reminds me of the cat version of Babbitt in the Clampett's short Tale of Two Kitties. It's kind of weird, isn't it, that we've gone from the two cats to the two mice, and yet the cat in this one looks like one of the cats in the first one. Kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? But the chase is on again. Not really much of a chase, though. Those claws are pretty strong, going right through the floor like the way they are, but anyway, the plan fails, and we ended up going to the next gag. The next gag is set up in an interesting way. So you got this plane, and already watching it, I'm thinking, how is he going to fit this plane through the mouse hole? But anyway, the Costello mouse is instructed to do a 3-point landing on the refrigerator. And if it doesn't work, I'll be a jackass.
This don't work, I'll be a jackass.
And sure enough, the plane takes off. And as I suspected, no, the plane's not going to fit through there. They clearly didn't think this one through. But the plane does continue on, although without its wings, as you've just seen. And I love the animation here of the plane going inside the cat's mouth all the way up to its tail. The cat's all confused, getting knocked about. The plane ends up leaving and going back into the hole. And sure enough, Costello ain't happy with that outcome because, yeah, it didn't quite work out as well as Babbitt had hoped. Because guess who's now the jackass?
Jackass! A jackass! Yeehaw! Yeehaw!
And we got that wonderful bit of animation of the Costello mouse turning into a jackass. That's one's wonderful to freeze frame as well. The next gag is actually kind of interesting because we don't have any setup whatsoever. We already start off with Babbitt pulling on a rope and absolutely struggling, and you're wondering what on earth is he struggling against? And sure enough, we've already got the Costello mouse in the cheese. So he's already gotten it. I wonder if there was a scene intended for before it was cut for whatever reason, or maybe as part of Tashlin leaving and then McKimson taking over. Who knows? But it's very interesting that they started off like that. But we see this beautiful animation of Babbitt absolutely struggling to hold up the weight, and as the cheese drops down, we also hear a rendition of the Rienzi Overture. Because why not? It's perfect for this scene. It's not even a musical pun either, it just works. But unexpectedly, instead of having the cheese smash onto the cat, Babbitt catches it just in time. But listen to the vocal delivery of Mel Blanc doing the whole Babbitt thing, just absolutely screeching. I wonder if they recorded that at the end of the vocal session where Mel Blanc's vocal cords were just dried out or something.
Babbitt!
Either way, it's absolutely perfect where he's trying to yell and yet be quiet at the same time. And even have Babbitt sort of struggling to hold the rope, not realizing that he's actually going all over this cat's nose. But again, Tashlin, master of timing, he keeps Babbitt doing that just long enough until he realizes, oh, it's a cat, drops the cheese anyway, and the two of them off like a firework back into the mouse hole. And in another great bit of animation, this cat who's clearly not happy, I love the animation of him trying to get out of those ropes. So up until now, the gags are one by one. So you have gag, blackout, gag, blackout. But again, I guess subverting expectations a little bit. Once the cat gets out of that rope, you see the Costello mouse holding onto that cheese and walking. And I love the pizzicato sound that you hear from the music as it's walking along. And as the cat lifts up the cheese, the pizzicato music still continues. You know, pizzicato, cat, almost had a gag there, son. Boo. But you can see that Babbitt is looking on in absolute shock, going, oh no, the cat is following you, and tells him to shush in the quietest way possible. But the Costello mouse, ever so oblivious, is telling him to shush as well. But I like that added little touch where he's clearly not holding anything, and yet he has to muster up all his strength just to lift up this invisible piece of cheese and continue on. But my goodness, I love the scene where he looks over, sees the cheese, oblivious to the cat being there, and that pose of the cat, fantastic. But we get perhaps the weirdest gag of this short, where you've got the Costello mouse, he's walking over the cat's paw, and naturally the claws extend. But then he goes backwards, making the claws retract, and then extend, extract, and so on. But if you listen very carefully, you can hear a very brief rendition of Shuffle Off the Buffalo for Reasons. Very weird gag, and I think it's hilarious because it's so weird. But he hears a meow and, well, the chase is on. But not before the claws get retracted, of course. So the pace really picks up again in this last chase scene here, so you have the Costello mouse thinking that he's in a prison from the cat claws. And what does Babbitt do? Does he help his friend? Nah, he just puts up a sign saying, roommate wanted, share expenses, inquire inside. Yeah, some friend he is. And again, even though this short isn't quote-unquote cinematic like Tashlin usually is, here's another bit where he chooses a great angle. So the cat flips up the Costello mouse into the air, and instead of doing a straight shot of the mouse actually falling down, we just see the point of view of the mouse as though he's going to go inside the cat's mouth. But the Costello mouse ends up opening up the ironing board, which ends up hitting the cat along with an iron itself. And I love the animation here of the iron hitting the cat. But we have to have some butt slaps, of course, for good measure. But the Costello mouse ends up getting the cheese, and look at the animation of the cheese itself, how it's all stretched out due to the Costello mouse, I guess, being a lot faster than the cheese itself. But anyway, it's a nice little effect. And we end up with the final punchline, which is perfect, because everything builds up to this moment, where they finally get the cheese. But do we think Babbitt likes this cheese? Nah, it's Swiss cheese. He doesn't like it. And the Costello mouse has just had enough and ends up hitting Babbitt, who deserves it if you really think about it. He's a bit of a prick in this short, so we end right there on a solid joke with the Costello mouse saying, I'm a bad boy, which is a line attributed to Costello, so it's perfect. So rewatching this short, I've watched this after reading Thad Komorowski's thoughts on this short, where he points out that this is painfully underrated. On the surface, it just looks like your typical pop culture parody where it's just taking two known comedians and just putting them in another situation, except they're animals this time, and that's it. But thankfully, this one has so much more to it, and it really is an underrated piece of Tashlin's history. How much of McKimson was in this one? Because, again, it's believed that he actually did some work on this one since Tashlin had left. I don't know, but I would imagine a lot of it would be very minimal. because there's nothing here that sticks out that, hey, this is likely Tashlin and this is likely McKimson. If you look at the last short attributed to Tashlin before McKimson fully took over, you can sort of tell who did what, at least for the most part anyway. But here, as far as I'm concerned, it's Tashlin, so any finishing work would have been just the smaller stuff anyway. But this one, pleasantly surprised. This one gets 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. It's quite funny. And yeah, as I said, not only you should get the Collector's Choice Blu-ray so you can watch this short, but also definitely check out Abbott and Costello if you haven't done so. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.